When I married Daniel 12 years ago, I thought I had found the man of my dreams. He was charming, ambitious, and promised me a life full of love and security. Together, we built a beautiful home, a white brick house on Willow Lane with blue shutters and a garden that bloomed brighter every spring. It wasn't just a house. It was our story written in walls and windows. Every corner held laughter, tears, and countless memories. But little did I know, the man who once held my hand under the stars would one day stab me in the back with a pen and a signature. It all started subtly. Missed dinners, secretive phone calls, unexplained absences. At first, I believed Daniel when he said work was getting hectic. I wanted to trust him. After all, marriage is built on trust, isn't it? But then one afternoon I received a call from our bank. The voice on the other end said, "Mrs. Miller, we're just confirming the property transfer request for your residence." My heart skipped a beat. "Property transfer? What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. The banker replied, "The house at 218 Willow Lane. It's being transferred under another name. Mr. Miller authorized it." My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. "Who's the new owner?" I whispered, dreading the answer. "Miss Veronica Blake," the man said casually. Veronica. The name hit me like a thunderclap. She was Daniel's colleague, the one he'd mentioned a few too many times. My world tilted. I rushed to Daniel's office, heart pounding, my mind spinning between disbelief and rage. He looked startled when I barged in. "Claire, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" I shouted. "What did you do to our home?" He froze. His lips parted, but no words came out. Finally, he muttered, "You're overreacting. It's just a legal arrangement." "A legal arrangement?" I echoed, trembling. "You sold our home, the home we built together, for $1 to your mistress?" He turned away, avoiding my eyes. "It's complicated," he said softly. "Veronica's investing in the company. It was easier this way for tax purposes. I'll handle it." But I wasn't buying it. I had seen the papers by then. The sale was official, signed, sealed, and recorded. Our home, the place where I raised our children, planted roses, and made every memory, was no longer ours. That night, I sat alone in the empty living room, surrounded by silence. Every tick of the clock cut into my heart. I wasn't just betrayed, I was erased. But as I stared at those walls, I made myself a promise. Daniel had no idea who he was dealing with. He thought he'd played me for a fool, but I wasn't done yet. I would fight back, not with anger, but with something far more powerful. I was going to make sure karma came knocking at his door. And when it did, I'd be there to watch. Because the woman he thought was weak was about to rise. Stronger, smarter, and ready to reclaim everything he tried to take. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a heart heavy with disbelief. My world had cracked open, yet the sun still rose like nothing had happened. I sat by the window, watching the light spill into the garden, my roses still blooming, unaware that the ground beneath them no longer belonged to me. For hours I couldn't move. My phone buzzed endlessly with messages from friends asking if I was okay. But I didn't answer. What could I say? That my husband had sold our home to his mistress for a single dollar? Who would even believe that? But grief soon hardened into resolve. If Daniel could play dirty, so could I. I decided to pay a visit to Veronica Blake, the woman who thought she'd won. I looked up her address, and to my disgust, it wasn't far. She had just moved into a sleek new mansion at the edge of town, no doubt funded by Daniel's business deals. I arrived there unannounced. When the door opened, Veronica stood there in a silk robe, her blonde hair perfectly curled. She looked at me as if I were an unexpected delivery. "Oh, Claire," she said, feigning surprise. "Did Daniel send you?" I clenched my fists. "No, I came on my own. I just wanted to meet the woman who bought my house for $1. Her lips curled into a smug smile. "Well, technically it's my house now." "Business is business, dear. Don't take it personally." Her arrogance was gasoline on my fire. I took a deep breath, forcing a smile. "Enjoy it while you can," I said softly. "You'll soon find out what Daniel's promises are really worth." She laughed lightly. "Oh, Claire, you always seem too soft for him. Don't worry, I'll take good care of your little memories." I turned and walked away before my anger broke loose. But I had already seen enough. The expensive car in her driveway, the diamond bracelet on her wrist, and the documents on her table bearing Daniel's company seal. He wasn't just betraying me. He was moving his entire empire into her hands. That night I began my quiet war. I went through every document I had, property records, business papers, emails. Being Daniel's wife for 12 years had taught me how he operated. I knew his passwords, his habits, and his weaknesses. The man who thought he'd outsmarted me had left trails everywhere. And then I found it. A file labeled Project Aurora. It was supposed to be his new company expansion. But when I opened the documents, I froze. Hidden among the financial statements were wire transfers. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moved to Veronica's account under fake business invoices. He wasn't just cheating on me emotionally, he was committing fraud. For a moment I felt sick. Then something inside me shifted. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the evidence. I printed everything, every email, every transaction, every lie. Then I called my lawyer, Mr. Jennings, and a man Daniel used to mock for being too honest. When I told him everything, there was a long silence. "Claire," he finally said, "if what you're telling me is accurate, your husband and his mistress could face serious charges, but I need proof that the sale of your house was fraudulent too." "I already have it," I said confidently. "The $1 sale wasn't legal and he forged my consent." Mr. Jennings exhaled sharply. "Then, my dear, you're about to turn the tables." That night I slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. I knew what I had to do. But before I acted, I wanted Daniel to believe I was still broken, that I'd accepted defeat. So I played my part. I smiled when he came home. I cooked dinner. I pretended to move on. He thought he'd won. But the truth was, I was just setting the stage for his downfall. As he kissed me goodnight, I whispered in my mind, "Little do you know, Daniel. Tomorrow your world begins to crumble." The next few weeks were an act, a beautifully crafted illusion. I played the perfect wife while secretly plotting Daniel's downfall. Every morning I greeted him with a smile, packed his briefcase, and kissed his cheek as he left for work. Inside, though, I was steel. I knew what he was doing. I knew he was meeting her, but I also knew something he didn't. I was recording everything. With the help of my lawyer, Mr. Jennings, I began collecting evidence carefully. Every phone call, every email, every transfer he made through his business accounts. We traced the money trail until it painted a perfect picture of deceit. Veronica wasn't just a mistress. She was his partner in crime, and together they were laundering money through false property deals. My house was just the beginning. One night, while Daniel was in the shower, I checked his phone. He had a text from Veronica that read, "Tomorrow we'll finalize the sale of the company shares. Once it's done, she'll have nothing." She, meaning me. I took a screenshot and sent it straight to Mr. Jennings. His reply came fast. "This is enough to start the case, but don't confront him yet. Let's corner him legally. That will hurt more." The next day I visited the property office quietly. I explained my situation to a clerk named Melanie, who listened with wide eyes as I told her about the forged documents. "Mrs. Miller," she said after checking the system, "your signature on this transfer doesn't match your legal records. You can file for immediate suspension of ownership until an investigation is complete." It was like breathing again after drowning. "Do it," I said. Within hours, the system flagged the $1 sale as disputed. Veronica's ownership was temporarily frozen. She couldn't sell, renovate, or even legally live in the property until the case cleared. When Daniel found out that night, he exploded. "Claire! What the hell did you do?" he roared, slamming the door behind him. I kept my tone calm. I didn't do anything. The authorities did. He paced the room like a trapped animal. "Do you have any idea how much trouble this causes me?" "Trouble?" I repeated softly. "You mean the trouble you caused yourself by forging my signature?" His eyes went wide. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, don't act clueless," I said, stepping closer. "I know about Veronica. I know about the transfers. And I know you sold our home for $1, thinking I'd never find out." "But guess what, Daniel? I found everything." He stared at me, speechless, his confidence cracking like thin ice. You can't prove anything." I smiled coldly. "Actually, I can, and I already have." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes, real fear. He stormed out, calling Veronica on the way. I watched from the window as he drove off, his car disappearing into the night. That was the moment I realized. He wasn't just losing his grip on me. He was losing control of his empire. The next day, I received a call from Mr. Jennings. "Claire, it's official," he said. "The investigators froze not only the property, but also his business accounts. Veronica's transactions have raised red flags at the bank. They'll both be questioned." I felt an unfamiliar warmth in my chest. Justice. Not revenge, not rage. Just the sweet calm of knowing the truth was finally catching up to them. That evening, I walked through my garden one last time. My roses, my bench, the home that held my memories, all still mine, at least for now. I knelt and whispered to the earth, "You're coming home to me soon." And deep inside, I knew Daniel's world was about to collapse. Not because I screamed or begged, but because I stayed silent and let his lies destroy him. He wanted me gone. Instead, he handed me the keys to his downfall. Within a week, the quiet storm I had started turned into a full-blown hurricane. Daniel's company, once the pride of his life, was now under investigation. His investors pulled out, his partners refused to take his calls, and his office was swarming with auditors. Every day, a new headline appeared online. Local CEO accused of financial fraud. I watched from a distance as everything he had built began to fall apart. The man who used to walk with arrogance now looked like a ghost of himself. His once tailored suits hung loosely on him, and his confident smile had turned into a nervous twitch. But the real drama began when Veronica decided to save herself. Mr. Jennings called me one morning. "Claire, it seems Miss Blake has turned witness. She's cooperating with the investigators." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "She's claiming Daniel manipulated her into the fraud, that she was just a victim of his lies." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Of course she is. She's always been good at playing innocent." That afternoon, Daniel showed up at my door, unannounced, uninvited, and completely defeated. His eyes were red, his hair unkempt, his tie hanging loose around his neck. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Claire," he said softly, "please, can we talk?" I crossed my arms. "Talk? Like you did when you sold my house? Or when you forged my signature?" He looked down, his voice trembling. "I made mistakes. I was stupid. Veronica used me. She promised she could help expand the business, but she just wanted my money." I let his words hang in the air before replying. "And you gave her everything, including the home we built together." His lips quivered. "I thought she loved me, but now she's blaming everything on me. She told the police I planned the whole thing." I tilted my head slightly. "And did you?" He hesitated. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was desperate. The business was failing, and she said this was a way out. "So you used me," I said coldly. "You used our marriage, our home, and every ounce of trust I gave you." He dropped to his knees right there in the living room, the same spot where he had once proposed to me. "Please, Claire, help me. You're the only one who can fix this." For a second, I just looked at him, the man who once swore to protect me, now begging for mercy. "Fix it?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You broke everything, Daniel. You broke me." He started crying, real tears this time, but they did nothing for me. The woman who used to love him was gone. In her place stood someone who had learned that forgiveness without justice is just weakness. "I can't help you," I said finally, "but maybe the truth can." Later that evening, I met with the investigators and handed over the final set of documents. The emails, the recordings, everything Daniel tried to hide. It was over. The next morning, the police arrived at his office. He was arrested on multiple counts of fraud and forgery. Veronica, desperate to save herself, gave a full statement, confirming everything. When the news aired, I sat quietly in my kitchen with a cup of tea. My phone buzzed with messages from people who once admired him, now turning against him. The world that had worshipped Daniel Miller was finally seeing the truth. But even in victory, I didn't feel joy. I felt something deeper, peace. Justice wasn't loud. It was silent, calm, and final. A few days later, I received a letter from the court. The disputed property, at my home, had been reinstated under my name. The $1 sale was null and void. I cried that night, but not from sadness. My tears were of relief. My home was mine again. Standing in the garden, I whispered, "Welcome home, Claire." The roses swayed gently in the wind as if answering me. Daniel had lost everything, his company, his mistress, his freedom. And I had gained something priceless, my strength. It was a crisp autumn morning when I stepped through the doorway of my reclaimed home for the first time in months. The air smelled faintly of paint and dust, but underneath it all was something familiar. The scent of my past, my peace, and my perseverance. The walls were bare, the furniture gone, yet I felt surrounded by memories that refused to die. As I walked through each room, I ran my fingers along the walls that had once echoed with laughter and tears. This place had seen it all: love, betrayal, heartbreak, and now rebirth. I paused at the window where Daniel and I had once stood, dreaming of our future. It was strange how those dreams had turned to ashes, yet from those ashes I had built something unbreakable: myself. After Daniel's arrest, the truth spread like wildfire. His company filed for bankruptcy. Veronica fled the city, and I refused to look back. People whispered, pitied, even praised me, but I didn't need their sympathy or applause. What I needed was silence, the kind that heals. I sold his luxury car, donated most of his possessions, and used the money to restore the house. Not to erase the memories, but to rewrite them. Weeks turned into months, and slowly my home transformed. Fresh paint covered old cracks, sunlight filled the rooms again, and laughter returned. This time my own. Friends dropped by often, bringing food, plants, and warmth. But my favorite visitors were the children from the local shelter, the ones I began mentoring through a small foundation I started with my savings. Helping them heal gave my pain a purpose. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea. Mr. Jennings stopped by, as he often did, with a small envelope in his hand. "Claire," he said, smiling, "the case is officially closed. The court granted you full restitution, and there's one more thing." Inside the envelope was a check. My eyes widened. This is more than I expected," he nodded. "The court ordered the sale of Daniel's remaining assets. You're legally entitled to it." I stared at the check, then shook my head gently. "I don't want his money. Let it go to charity, maybe to rebuild homes for women who've lost everything like I almost did." Mr. Jennings smiled proudly. "You've turned pain into power, Claire. Most people seek revenge. You sought peace." His words stayed with me long after he left. I realized then that the real victory wasn't in seeing Daniel fall. It was in standing tall after everything he'd done. I wasn't the woman who had been betrayed anymore. I was the woman who survived, rebuilt, and rose stronger than ever. Later that night, I opened my laptop and began to write. Not to vent, but to inspire. I titled my story, "The House That Was Sold for $1." I poured every emotion into those pages: the shock, the heartbreak, the strength, the justice. I wanted others to know that no matter how deeply you're hurt, you can always rise again. A few months later, I received an email from a reader. "Thank you for sharing your story. Because of you, I finally left my toxic marriage. I'm free now," I cried as I read it. For the first time in a long while, my tears weren't for pain. They were for hope. Standing once more in the garden under the soft glow of moonlight, I whispered to myself, "He sold our home for $1, but I bought my freedom for priceless peace." The roses swayed, just like they did the night everything fell apart, and I smiled. My home wasn't just a house anymore. It was a symbol of resilience, forgiveness, and rebirth.